have been finishing the materials for today's call, and then last second, because so many things happening, last second we added new things. I just want to make sure that we cover it all. So please let me know if you guys hear me okay. Hopefully you do, and I'll just start because we don't have time. So first things first, Proposal 11 has been finalized, and Proposal 12 have been finalized. Both of them are in whale. So as far as Proposal 11 goes, the next testnet is going to be Hoodie. More about this in a second. And Proposal 12, the term for 7.7 bridge, and I'll explain that in a second as well, is stake squared. So those have been the two elections by the community. So Hoodie. All right, so we had a couple of contestants. We had Hoodie, Pulse, Gnosis, Chiado Testnet, and we had other options. So Hoodie won. Pulse was the second one. And the reason why Hoodie was not in the picture before is because the RPCs and Hoodie do not allow for events. Today they do allow for events, and since our bridges are essentially, like, the bridge transaction is formulated within an event, we need to have RPCs that do, in fact, process events. So Hoodie was not qualified before. About 6 months ago, we couldn't do it. But today's RPCs are good enough for it, it seems like. Now, the reason why that's happening is Sepolia testnet will be deprecated in, I think, September. Q3 of this year, 2026. Hoodie's probably going to replace it. So I think that's what's happening. That's why they are improving the RPCs. Let me just check the sound if you guys. Okay. Now, what changed for Hoodie in particular? For Hoodie in particular, we had to redesign smart contracts, and I'll also cover this today. Not just use the interface, but also actual smart contracts. In fact, kind of moving away from legacy of Olympus even further. So the first major differentiation was bug fixing. Second major differentiation was native point backing. And third main differentiation is essentially connecting the bond to the bridge. So essentially bypassing the warm-up for those users who want to bridge. So that is totally native to Ghost project. Olympus didn't have it. None of these DeFi 2.0 have it. So we've got to cover this in a second. So Hoodie, therefore, is going to be a pretty experimental launch as well, because the Hoodie will also incorporate that situation. There could be some issues, so we may need to be redeploying Hoodie multiple times, but hopefully everything's good. The test showed everything okay. There's some things with approximations. Approximations was the reason for Balancer hack and Balancer Foundation being closed down due to that specific hack. So it's a very, very sensitive situation with the approximations, with rounding, and I hope we treated it properly. Okay. For Proposal 2, stake squared or double stake. We're probably still going to refer to double stake because who calls it stake squared, but whatever. So stake 2, double stake, stake squared. That is the term officially elected. Let's see how it lives. Okay. Next. G&V swaps have been completed. The following ones: Q2 2025, Q3 2025, Q4 2025, and Q1 2026. So 4 swaps have been completed. That have been between Polygon chain and Avalanche chain. Announcements will follow, specifically announcements in Wales group as well. The amounts have not been slashed yet, but they will. So if your amount is slashed, do not worry. It's probably due to the reason that your G&V has been swapped. So now your G&V is on chain. So sorry it took some time. We finally had some breathing room, and we used that opportunity to take advantage of and finish the swaps. Now, certain RPCs did not work on Ghost NFT, specifically on 4 chains. It was Auster, Phantom, Polygon, and Telos. I think they all have been fixed except for Auster. So we need to figure out what's happening. Maybe Auster changed something. Maybe they changed, made some type of fork situation happening, whatever. And maybe that's not compatible anymore. We'll see. I don't know. But I think the rest has been fixed. as far as RPCs, so we used 4 public RPC endpoints on Polygon, and one of them was failing. Like it just took me like an hour to do 2 swaps. And then we had to change it to like another RPC. So yeah, RPC is an issue, is a real freaking issue. And those, I mean, I don't think it's a systemic problem. It's not a technical problem. It's rather like an adoption problem. So that's something to keep in mind as far as selecting which chains to bridge to and from. Permissionless goes asking, will prior Hoodie tokens, Casper and Hoodie, any token from a Hoodie be resurrected? No. Great question. So on Hoodie, if you have any Casper, first of all, I'll show you for the Hoodie in a second. But Hoodie is the last chain that has Fatso and Stinky still. It's the same exact smart contract on the back end. So what you do, but it cannot be bridged. So the best thing you can do is unswap, unstake, do whatever, sell it, and get your Hoodie Ethereum back. That's the best thing you can do. And then once we redeploy it, so the engineering launch for Hoodie is going to be Monday. This upcoming Monday, we're launching it, deploying it. Hopefully everything is going to be well. And then the marketing launch is going to be the following week, because we also need to finalize additional user interfaces, which is a bulk of them, which we've been working on very day and night over the last month. Okay. Wait, is this the same slide? Okay, same slide. Okay, whatever. So, reiterating, same slide. Okay, I was probably in a rush. Okay, now let's talk about the 2 phases that we foresee while redesigning ghostDAO and also redesigning Lite and also redesigning GhostConnect. We're super busy. Like extremely busy, and again, as we mentioned last year, the busyness level will only be increasing. I wouldn't say we're in blood yet, but and tears, but definitely in lots of sweat already, and it's only going to increase in intensity. But it's fine, right? Like, my only hope is that the community takes over from perspective of, learning whatever we're doing, like learning super fast and then delivering, relaying the message to your peers, because we just kind of a little bit bummed out, right? And also kind of purposefully not trying to communicate that much in Wales, because it's really the expectation of, that the community will start taking over. So the philosophical debate and the philosophical vision that we have, which may be incorrect, but that's what we're seeing, is this. We probably will have 2 phases when we launch. That's important. And we probably will have 3 distinct groups of users, maybe more. But those 3 distinct users are the ones that we see kind of happening. Now, each of those groups have their unique psychographics and demographics, etc. And we coined them as degens, bridgers, and validators. So validators are just technical guys and girls who just want to make money on the internet. Literally. It was a pretty, when internet came out, I was personally searching, I don't know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I was searching, hey, can I make money online? Is there any way to make money online? And validators is that, I would say, that psychographic, can I make money online? So can I make money from my home? I have my technical skills. Maybe I have, significant technical skills, like I'm just a nerd. Well, maybe I just have access to nerds, right? Maybe I'm, a fundraiser, or I'm this. I remember this group from Belgium we had. I'm not sure if they're validating anymore right now, but they had 10 nodes or so. They were, right? So one guy was a technical guy, another guy was a tokenomics guy. That's how they differentiate themselves. So the tokenomics guy, obviously, has been, nitpicking, selecting projects, and then the validator guy has been validating. So validated is not just nerds, right? It's anybody who I believe who just wants to make money online, right? And currently it's challenging to make money online, given the fact that there are not that many opportunities. The world is crushing down, and what was easy is not easy anymore. I think for some time, the economic stability is the word of the past. Again, for quite some time, maybe for the next 5-10 years, and I think globally, we can see this, based on the lifestyles and based on the overall affordability indices across the globe, literally in almost every single nation. People are just living worse than their previous generations, and it's yeah. So making money online is definitely going to be something interesting. So that's validators. Now, validators will be prevalent of both phases, the first phase and the second phase. So therefore, we can attack them. We can attack them, meaning attract them, right? Like attack attack that vertical of validators. What we are doing so far is we are scanning through validators of existing projects and failed projects, and we're trying to reach out to them. And there's some conversions, some people coming in based on that. It worked in the past. It works now. It's perhaps the best vehicle for conversion. Just quick, some observations from this. If you guys want to join this, kind of helping us attract more validators, is this. Just two great examples. So this one chain, IOST. Apparently it was an Asian chain. Why Asian? Because when you look through the validator set, I think it was about 300 or 500 validators, 300 to 500 validators. Mostly it was comprised of when we were scraping that data, lots of it was in Japanese, lots of this was in Mandarin. So it was quite depressing, this IOST situation. 90% of the validators no longer alive. Like it's literally like a ghost chain. No pun intended, actually. So it was quite depressing to scrape this data. I was actually becoming depressed from this. I'm like, no freaking way. Like all these reminiscences of the good times. Oh, how amazing it was in 2017 when the world still believed that Web3 is possible, because it's still possible as a whole situation. It is Web 2.5. It's like Circle and Tether and Coinbase with Base Chain and Solana took over and said, no. It has to be for institutional investors. But it's not. Institutional investors can play in their own sandboxes. Like we need for retailers, we need some optionalities, but we don't. We're getting restricted more and more globally, right? So, and those who thought that we are crazy don't think that we're crazy anymore, right? Because when it touches you personally, at least once, now you understand that we're not paranoid, just full of paranoia. So IOST in particular, very depressing. Maybe 10% of these validators alive. Significant percentage of those 10% is some kind of more like industrial, like enterprise level validators, which is not very good because we need retailers for the most part. Like we need small groups of validators, like small time validators, like mom and pop shop validators type of things. Okay. But then Cardano. Cardano is in the live chain, top 10, 15, top 20 chains, right? Based on market cap. Very different situation. It's to the opposite. 90% of those validators are online and 10% are dead, 5 to 10% are dead. Totally different situation. Like no longer is depressing. So it's interesting that we need both of these chains. Like we need both dying validators or dead validators and alive and kicking validators, because you just never know where you can find gems. I forgot what chain was that. Was it Telos or was it like EOS? Like one of those like kind of smaller chains, like good as far as back and whatever, but like small as far as actual kind of adoption or transactions, like number of transactions. And mostly they had, like when we started scraping, like the first 5 or 10 were like institutional validators. I'm like, oh shit, like okay, it's institutionals. The model for institutional investors is this: they charge you money because the coin themselves make like no sense, right? Because inflation is above the real return, so you make no money. So therefore, a chain has to pay you as a validator to maintain it. It's a really, really corrupt, I would say, disgusting type of model, but it exists, whatever. So of course, talking to institutional node runners is not an option. I'm like, okay, whatever, this chain probably has nothing. And then like validator number 11 was this like retail dude, I think out of Switzerland or something. He's like, yeah, I believe in Web3, I believe in decentralization, I run this node. Like you can always find gems like that within massive lists. Now, of course, it's not it's not necessarily that those validators will respond to us, especially since we have some time until the mainnet launch. However, it's all about points of contact. Like it's all about how many times do you reach out to them how many times do they hear about you? Because by the time the mainnet appears, the more people hear about us, the better, because then the mainnet, and then everybody can start joining us, right? So it's still like, even if there's no conversion per se, it's still some brand awareness. So that's interesting. Okay, so therefore validators will be for both phase 1 and phase 2. Because phase 1, that's like more a speculative phase. We need validators here because that's an amazing opportunity for validators to enter. And phase 2, that's where the bridging fees start pumping up, right? So the bridging fees, and therefore validating becomes more like sustainably profitable, right? So in the first phase is like more speculative. So validators receive, the initial allocation, so that initial allocation may increase in price. Plus, they can also participate and buy some eCasper on low, expecting the eCasper to increase. While in the second phase, the tokens may not necessarily be kind of going up and down that crazily anymore because the volatility will be decreased. However, the bridging fees then will kick in because now we have no arbitrage opportunities or the arbitrage opportunities are very, very tiny between the chains, and now it's stable, and now it's bridging fees that kick in. So now, since we kind of brought in the validator phase, now let's talk about like those phases in more detail one more time. So phase 1, that's a degen phase, right? And we need degens for that. So degen phase is what? We have degens, prices go up and down, thanks to Uniswap V2 curve, and especially if there's low liquidity, the price action is insane. And then if you launch on multiple chains, now we have massive arbitrage opportunities between those chains, and degens will just jump on this, and we have crazy APYs, and like, let's go, right? So like the idea for this degen phase is to get as many degens as possible and increase the volume and increase treasury balances as much as possible for the ghostDAO cross chain. So it goes down Ethereum, goes down Tron, goes down Polygon, goes down Binance, etc. So bring as much liquidity as possible, Ethereum Classic, Pulse, Gnosis, whatever. Bring as much liquidity as possible, being driven by insane speculation opportunity, insane arbitrage opportunity, insane APY opportunity, in short, insane potential profit opportunity. Okay. Now the profit opportunity will simply be due to the inefficiency of markets, cross-chain, right? Plus APYs. So it's essentially this model of 3,3 of Olympus, but raised to the power. That's why they call it stake and square, right? And of course, since the arbitrage opportunity will likely be very, very high, that will trigger insane bridging fees, which will bring validators, right? Because now validators can make a lot of money, like a lot of easy fees at first, right? And those fees will be denominated in Ghost, and Ghost will be very, very low as far as price level. So therefore, there's only, like sky's the limit essentially, right? Like if let's assume the initial price is going to be $1, right? So, it can easily jump to $10, right? Today's $500. So like imagine the upside, the APY, for those validators who collected those Ghost fees initially. Okay. So that's phase 1 degen. Crazy, potentially the most fun phase. Now phase 2 is the bridging phase. Now the bridging phase is when, again, as I just mentioned, the speculative cycle is diminished. Now it's not eliminated completely. In fact, it's not eliminated ever. And arbitrage is never eliminated ever. It's just that today the arbitrage between Mortar and Sepolia is 100%, right? Now the arbitrage opportunity in phase 2 will likely be 0.5%, 1%, 0.1%, maybe 5%, right? So it will be very, 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 very low relative to what it was in phase 1. So it will still exist because markets are inefficient. However, once we do have prices stabilize at the same levels of Casper cross-chain, same price on Ethereum, same price on Mortar, same price on Ethereum Classic, same price on Pulse, same price on Polygon. That's where bridging becomes, and when we say bridging through, right, becomes a lot more apparent. Now, in the first phase, you can bridge through and you can make a lot of freaking money, or you can lose a lot of money depending on the level, depending on how you're going to do it, right? Because, if you go from $250 on Mortar price to $500 on Sepolia, sure, you make it 100%. Now, if you go the opposite direction, 500 on Sepolia down to 250 on Mortar, you lose 50%, right? So the bridge through does not necessarily make sense. It can still make sense in certain cases, again, in certain directions, but in certain directions it just doesn't make sense. Now, of course, there'll be some mistakes. People will be making mistakes, but overall, like as a sustainable business model, I don't think we can expect bridge through. we can expect lots of bridge-in. Why would people do bridge-in? We'll explain in a second, because we do offer double APY. And double APY stake squared, that is kind of the main reason why. That's exciting. But as far as the bridge through, like to use our bridge relative to XLR or Layer0 or Symbiosis or dBridge or MetaMask bridge, like any of these swaps that have centralized control, it's probably not going to happen, right? Again, sustainably. Now, the team disagrees with me. I'm just sharing my personal opinion here. Team completely disagrees with this vision as far as like there will be no bridges, but I think there will be no sustainable bridges here. Okay. So that brings us to those two phases. Phase 1 is degen, and therefore we need degens, and phase 2 is bridgers. Now, who are the bridgers? Bridgers could be anybody, right? So bridgers could be people who just want to bridge with no KYC, and that's going to be a huge, huge chunk of them, especially when we connect Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Monero, like ETXO bridges to the EVM stack as well. Maybe potentially brings the likes of, Solana. I really doubt it, but who knows, right? Like, who knows? Obviously, we'll be focusing on Web3 and protecting the Web3 ethos and Web3 community. So how do we approach those different groups? Again, we have validator, degens, and bridgers. And the whole point is, we are potentially a little bit too early for the bridgers. Now, of course, if you have a permissionless ghost, like specifically for yourself, like if you have some institutional enterprise access, we have it, we don't have it, I don't know. Let's assume we have it for Tether. Okay, that's totally like a bridger type of player. Okay, of course, if they can bring lots of liquidity initially into the ghostDAO, then we can get to phase 2 a lot faster, and therefore, essentially, bridgers they can use us as this open source tool to make lots of money on the bridge themselves, right? And they can pool their own liquidity into the ghostDAO, thus substantiating the phase 2 faster, right? So they can accelerate coming to phase 2. And how much liquidity do we need to get to phase 2? I don't think we need billions of dollars. I think we just need millions of dollars. I don't think 1 million will be enough. But of course, depends on the liquidity of the native coin on a given chain itself. I think we probably need, 100 million will be definitely enough, I would say. And I would probably assume that it could be less than that. Like, I think it's probably going to be somewhere between 10 million to and above, right? So 10 million plus. I think that's where the bridging will start making sense. So it's not that bridging is like sometime, in the future, 50 years down the road when the liquidity gets to $1 trillion. No. I think it's about 10 million on Ethereum. On other chains, 10 million will be significant. If we are able to bring 10 million TVL on most of the third tier chains, such as Auster, Aurora, Moonbeam, right, like Telos, we're going to be like the number one DApp, literally the number one DApp on those chains, like hands down. Now, of course, if we bring 10 million on Ethereum, we're nobody, right? But, better than nothing. So therefore, for the bridgers, we're not really approaching bridgers. I think essentially bridgers will be some of them will be enterprise type of access. Some of them will just be crowdfunding through users. So I do not know yet. Now we have a specific bridger access of those people who love privacy. So people who absolutely love privacy are the bridgers as well, right? So there are multiple kind of layers within the bridge, kind of psychographic groups. One of them is privacy-oriented libertarians. The likes of Monero supporters, Tornado Cash supporters and stuff like that. Those are definitely bridgers as well. Do we have access to those users? Yes, we do. I think we also know how to approach them, but we are a little bit too early for that yet. So bridges, therefore, is probably going to be enterprises, just overall crowdfunding, and the privacy lovers. Now, let me show you how we're going to be approaching validators, because we're already approaching them. So let me just reshare the thing. Yeah, so this page has been built. We didn't see any conversions. You know why we didn't see much conversions? Because those links don't work. So we need to fix the links. Like, links stopped working because they have some code in order for us to trace where kind of users came from. So we need to fix the links. This was kind of our fault. I just discovered this literally before the call. So but this is the page, right? So this page lists all the necessary links for the validators, social media, and all the necessary links. The most important one is this. Now, we shared this article that resonated with lots of you guys. We shared that with on the calls with validators, including enterprise validators, and yes, it resonates with them as well, like massively. So they do realize, I mean, we just telling them, the problem they're experiencing. The cost of maintaining these nodes is insane. They say $2,000 to $3,000 per month per node from lots of these blockchains. So we spoke to this guy who's one of the top crowd-funded validator on Cosmos. Yeah, they spend $2,000 to $3,000, I believe they said, per month to maintain the Cosmos node. And then ours can be run using Raspberry Pi. Now, of course, we have RPC endpoints, right, which is adding to the complexity and adding to the permissioned access. However, that depends on the infrastructure of the chain. So I spoke to Mr. IDK separately about this. Like, are we still permissionless, or we lying that we're permissionless? How we could be lying? Well, listen, yeah, the node itself on Ghost Chain is very, very light. However, RPC endpoints become heavy, so we just lying to the audience saying, hey, like, yeah, like kind of not telling the entire truth. That's the first take. Yeah, maybe we're not telling the entire truth as far as RPCs, but I don't think at all that this is the right kind of view on the situation, although it could be interpreted like this. I believe it's very, very different. We are on the opposite, conversely, trying to do everything in our power to go for Web3 chains that do have community-run good RPC endpoints that are public in nature. And therefore, the requirements to run a Ghost node is the same, as low as Raspberry Pi, essentially. Right? You need 6 gigabytes of RAM to compile a node, but only 2 gigabytes to maintain the node. Now, you still need a little bit of storage, right? But nothing compared to all these other blockchains. So essentially, your computer machine can still your home. Well, don't do this, right? But in theory, your personal computer could be used to run a node easily, as long as it's 24/7. Now, the stake's also going to be very, very tiny initially. Like, it's probably going to be 1 Ghost per node initially. So we're still the most permissionless, or one of the most permissionless proof of stake chain out there. Definitely amongst the main ones, we are the most permissionless. But what resonates with validators is this chart as well, right? So they do realize that, listen, the overall real APY from staking is negative. Nominal could be high. Like, for example, Sui's nominal APY was 2.1%, but inflation was 33%. That's the real inflation. Like, rather, the real APY is negative because they give you 2.1% profit, but the token is diluted by 33% every year. So as long as 33% of capital enters the place of Sui, sure, you'll make 2.1%. But that's like such a stupid, like, type of, not stupid, let's do it differently. So naive, right? Such a kind of like lazy type of assumption. And that's what they've been doing, all of these, like, chains. They stopped doing this lately. But like Cosmos, still 17.4% APY, but inflation is 19%. So you're losing 2% roughly. And everybody knows this. Validators really know this. And when I show them this article, they're like, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what's happening. That's very, very much true. And that's why they get paid additionally on top of it. So the model for them is, yeah, we're going to be losing 2% on inflation, but you guys are going to pay us monthly. Like Anchor told us the fee is about $4,000 to $10,000 per month per node. So like that's the only way to make sure that Anchor will be maintaining my node. What kind of decentralization is this when you have to pay? It's like paying for sex. Like let me like, it's like I would like to create a really, really amazing marriage, but I'll be paying for sex. Like not that I'll be providing for my wife, I'll be paying for sex. I'll be paying for for kids. Like it's just bizarre. Like it's just bizarre. But that's what's happening in the space. And of course, for us, the real APY is just bridging APY. So so this thing resonates. So for us to onboard validators, that's what we're going to be doing. So we already have these pages with the countdown. We already have an amazing article. We probably need to do more pieces on this, but obviously this connects to that. Why Become Ghost Validator connects to this one. So that is how we are approaching validators. Now, as far as bridgers, again, that's a little bit later, right? So we can, we do have access to the forums where privacy-oriented libertarians are hanging out, but maybe we are a little bit too early. Maybe not, but maybe a little bit too early because some of them just need, like, I just need to bridge tomorrow, okay? Like, if you guys are going to build within the next 6 months, great, so come back to us 6 months later. So right now, therefore, we're going after validators. But what about degens? What about degens? How do we approach degens? And that is exactly kind of the philosophical thing, the philosophical kind of rebuild that we've been working on for the last month. As I mentioned to you in Sweat. Again, not tears and blood yet, just Sweat. In order for us to really feel it. And thanks to your feedback, guys, we got this, right? So this is the homepage. I showed some of this last week, but let's just do this one more time. So this is the final page. Together we tribe 7-7. Now 7-7 will change. Once we do Hoodie, it's going to be 10-10. Based on the Lite paper, every single new chain that we add to the bridge adds up 3-3. So we have 3-3, 3-3, and then the bridge is 1-1. So therefore it's 3-3 when it's just Ethereum by itself. When we attach the bridge to it through Gatekeeper, it's 4-4. Then we added Mortar, now it's 7-7. Now we're going to add Hoodie, it's 10-10. So this will keep increasing. And let's say we click on Sepolia, so it will redirect you to the swap actually. Now what is happening here? So first of all, this has been deployed, right? But this will change to stake squared, obviously, because that has been elected by proposal 12, so 7-7 goes taken. Okay. Now, what we're going to be working on is, let me demonstrate specifically. So let's assume you have a bond, right? So currently, the bond has a 2-epoch warm-up. The 2-epoch warm-up has been increased on both Sepolia and Mortar. What does it mean? Let's assume I want to claim my thing. Now, first thing that I check is Rebase. Oh, Rebase is ready, meaning that Rebase has been ready for quite some time. Every single 8 hours, there's an epoch on ghostDAO, which is different from epoch era on Ghost Chain. So every single 8 hours, I think it's midnight EST, 8 a.m. EST, and 4 p.m. EST, respectively, on each chain, on each EVM, that the epoch is going to be triggered. So the next So the epoch has been triggered probably multiple times. Again, as we mentioned in Wales, we've been triggering those rebases ourselves. The rebase is automatically triggered every single time somebody stakes one stakes. Outside of that, you have to go to the smart contract and just manually trigger the rebase function, paying gas fee for that. So the rebase is ready. Okay, so the number of rebases is exactly what is telling us about the epochs. So when I go back to the bond, right? Here I cannot claim it because 2 epochs. Here's the thing. Maybe 2 epochs have already been passed. And with Olympus case and with our case specifically as well, users will find it a lot more, users will be a lot more incentivized to trigger those rebases themselves. Because if I trigger those rebases, chances are my warm-up has already been ended and I can claim my bond. But let's assume I claim the epoch, and I'm about to claim my bonds. And then permissionless goes to you, for example, a second before me. Okay, a block before me, 13 seconds before me. You go ahead and buy one of the bonds. So what's happening now is my epoch warm-up now all of a sudden is extended for another 2 epochs. So I have to wait another 16 hours. And that has been the thing for Olympus. Now, is it good or bad? It's amazing for the protocol. It's super amazing for the protocol because I can claim my Casper, right? Then I can unwrap it into eCasper, sell it on the DEX. And when I do that, I'll be messing up with the discount. So that's done for that to protect the bond buyers. But what we're going to incorporate, and that's why we have to change smart contracts, which we already did, and that's going to be a new version on Hoodie, is when you claim, you will have an option to either wait for 2 epochs, and you can do this and you can claim your bonds, no problem. Or skip the warm-up altogether and get to the Ghost Bridge. So let me just kind of crystallize the vision for degens one more time. So while the UIs are the same, the validators will still be brought through those, right? So the validators still being brought through direct outreach. So yes, they still will have to go through the same kind of degen-y looking kind of UIs, but it's a very different approach. We're still guiding them directly, personally through direct outreach, and we send them this link. Some of this stuff is technical stuff, so access to forum, access to articles, access to all the guides, blah blah blah. So it's pretty technical in nature. For degens though, degens will be just driven to this page. They see insane APIs, and we ran this by our friends. And the first reaction is it's impossible. How the freak is it even? What the hell's happening? But then they get interest. The interest gets triggered, and they are willing to check more, so they come here. Of course, we'll be changing those papers here, like the copy here, to make it more kind of explanatory. We don't need ETH or wrap ETH, like those will go. We already have designs for that. We'll be adding more pop-ups, some changes to the right panel as well. So we are about, I would say, 30% complete, and we have another 70% to do. But that's going to be kind of what we're trying to do here is those papers, we'll try to incentivize them to start staking, to start buying stuff, right? Because of the APY. So the selling point is APY, okay? Specifically sustainable APY, not just single APY, which is, in this case, on Sepoy 959%, but also staking squared APY, right? The double stake APY through the bridge. So both will be, they will upsold on both. It's going to be a lot more evident. Essentially, what's happening right now is we have this insane value proposition, but we don't have this being shown anywhere. And that's what Scorpion told us, and some other whales told us, that like, hey, listen, guys, you have such an amazing value proposition. How about you show it? How about you talk about it? So thank you so much for that feedback. Okay. Now let me show you exactly, well, not exactly, but roughly how it's going to look like. So let me go back to PowerPoint. Okay. So now, while it may sound easy, oh, okay, so just change ghostDAO, but it goes further than that. We cannot just change ghostDAO. We have to change the entire stack, because Lite, GhostConnect, and ghostDAO are now intertwined. They are interconnected. We need to make sure the connections are proper. We need to make sure the linkage is proper, okay? Because we cannot pull everything within GhostDAO. And now I'll show you today as well, Lite is also becoming like a really pumped with lots of functionality and features, which is too much, which we definitely need to be separating. And then GhostConnect needs to be potentially redesigned as well to attach to kind of appeal to this new narrative of APY sell. So this is how the pop-ups will look like, right? So as I mentioned to you, like this will say if you're available for claiming one epoch, right, at 69% APY. So you are waiting in your warm-up as a bonder. Okay, you are still receiving 69% APY, no problem. Like, you can wait for eternity. You'll be receiving your APY. You're already staking it. So it's nice. However, you can go ahead and skip it. You can skip the warm-up altogether, not wait for anything, and just start staking right away. And then once your one epoch horizon is kind of cleaned up, now this button pops up here, claim bond. Okay, you can claim bond for sure, no problem. You can absolutely claim it. However, what you could do instead is you could do these kind of double staking APY at much higher APY. Okay, and same thing with the stake. So that's like those pop-ups will be model windows will be upselling you on stuff. One second, let me just write down some corrections that I need to change. Okay. Then the next one is, so then if you select to proceed further for the double stake, right in this model window, we're not going to be redirecting to the bridge. Right in this model window, we'll say, okay, cool, connect your GhostConnect. Sorry for the tautology. So essentially, hey, get your GhostConnect so they get it. And if they do get it, they'll be able to copy paste the unique address. Now, the idea will be, so we have something similar. So initially, the initial idea was just to pre-fill the address from GhostConnect right away. However, we would like to, play on this functionality of GhostConnect, which is comprised of root addresses and derivative addresses, which is very similar to what Bitcoin has as far as privacy features. So we never highlighted those functionalities, but we do have it, and we should absolutely highlight it now, where every single bridging transaction shall come with its unique address. Now, you can do the following. You can have one root address that has its own public and private key. However, under this one root address, you can have multiple derivation addresses with their own private keys and with their own public keys and secret keys, private keys, therefore. So the idea here will be to play out the GhostConnect in such a way that if you are making a new transaction, you are kind of like incentivized, kind of not forced, but you are invited to create a new derivative address under the root. And then the GhostConnect will be uniting all of these derivatives under one root and giving you one balance. So you know that this is like still under one root. So again, it's not as easy as just changing those pop-ups and just like making one product goes down. That's it in isolation. We have to consider GhostConnect right away and also Lite. I'll show you Lite in a second. So we have to do all of this stuff properly and also try to feature privacy, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But so then the next thing is this. Next thing is this. So yeah, if you don't get Ghost Connect, you can still bridge, no problem. We'll be obviously inviting you to install it as much as possible. And if you do have it, if you do have it, then this thing will show up here. Now, obviously, after the transaction has been finalized, the bridging transaction has been finalized, you're not double staking yet. So we need to then create the entire journey for you to be able to nominate your stake in a more or less easy fashion. It's not going to be easy though, but in a more or less easy fashion. And there are multiple things to be considering for that. But let me first of all tell you what features will then be included on Ghost Lite, which we are redesigning as well. And it's all not easy at all. So Ghost Lite, Ghost Connect together. What type of features they'll have? First of all, transactions, send, receive, and some privacy transactions, where you can kind of dissect your every single bridging transaction into its own derivative address and then somehow unite them into one root down the road. So that's like the transaction. So send, receive, privacy, and address book. So address book is not here, but it's part of it, right? So, okay, so this is kind of easy. We have it. Nomination. We have it, but we need to redesign it. So currently we have nominate validators, that functionality. So you can nominate me if I'm a validator. What we don't have, and that needs to be improved significantly. We need to redesign the table. We have some versions from the table already, but we need tables, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, trust me, to make sure the Ghost Lite looks nice. Another thing outside of nominate validators is pooling. So if you don't have enough money to become a nominator, or you don't want to deal with all this responsibility, because nomination is a very involved strategy. You need to select your validators. You need to kind of restake, figure out the fees, see which validators are not active anymore, and therefore renominate to other validators. So it's a pretty involved strategy. There's kind of like a set and forget strategy through the pool, but somebody needs to initiate a pool. So you either don't have money or you don't want to deal with all this crap. So you just say, okay, cool, I just want to join a pool. Now the pool is a crowdfund for nominators. So somebody has to initiate the pool, assign a manager. They can assign themselves as a manager or can assign somebody else as a manager. They call them bouncer on Polkadot. So you do that, and you can invite other nominators to join in to essentially create this one crowdfunded pool of nominators. So this pool, therefore, just goes ahead and manages everything aggressively on your behalf. So it's kind of more set and forget type of strategy, while nomination is a very involved strategy. So we need to figure out how both strategies need to be played, and we have not that much insight yet. And it's very difficult to build stuff, to build products with not that much insight. So we have to take assumptions, and then those assumptions need to be disproved. And once they're disproved, the design needs to be flexible enough for us to minimize the time of reworking the Ghost Lite, Ghost Connect. So that's why it's so complicated. Another thing that needs to be incorporated in Ghost Lite is governance. ghostDAO governance will probably go there, and Ghost Chain governance will go there, and also treasury management. So let's assume you have lots of treasury, Ghost within the treasury owned by the Ghost Cold. So the question is, how do you withdraw it? How do you manage it? Do you contribute? Do you have to restake it with other nominators? Do you have to contribute liquidity towards Bitcoin DEX? Like, all these things need to be thought through in some type of capacity, and also it will incorporate lots of user interfaces that need to be incorporated. So already Ghost Lite is pretty heavy, right? So it's transactions, right? And nomination plus pooling, which is like a lot of UIs. Now it's also governance, which is like even more UIs. We have to separate between ghostDAO governance, meaning like Cipolle ghostDAO, Mortar ghostDAO, Hoodie ghostDAO. It's a lot of user interfaces, and how will they all live under one UI, under one product of Ghost Lite? That's an issue. Then obviously we have Bridge. So Bridge In currently lives on ghostDAO. Maybe it needs to be migrated to ghostDAO to some extent, but Bridge Out will live on Ghost Lite. So do we have to create a separate domain, bridge.ghostchain.io, for the bridges? Down the road, when the liquidity is nice, yes, maybe, but currently it will be living probably on Ghost Lite, because you need to be signing transactions, so you need to be connected to Ghost Connect. Like, it's this whole freaking situation of what to do. And it's not easy. Like, none of these solutions are easy from a technical perspective. We also have Ghost DEX down the road. So Ghost DEX will have to incorporate Bitcoin Ghost LP liquidity pair, Bitcoin versus Ghost reserves. How many Bitcoin reserves, how many Ghost reserves? Let's say we have more UTXO chains connected, not just Bitcoin, but also Litecoin, also Bitcoin Cash, Monero, etc., 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 etc. So it's going to be an issue, right? Like, how to have all these user interfaces under one Ghost Lite product. It's probably not going to be one product. It's probably going to be multiple products. We probably have to create a bridge.ghostchain.io for bridging. We probably have to create governance.ghostchain.io for governance. We probably have to create dex.ghostchain.io for all types of swaps, whether it's EVM swaps or UTXO swaps or ghost specific swaps. It's going to be a problem, okay, to have it all under one roof somehow, so that we can minimize the time for redesign down the road. And the problem is not that. The problem is not design or technical even. The problem is insights. We don't have that many insights from users yet because, well, partially because we don't have it built. Of course, we will be analyzing feedback from other existing products we already did. For example, Polkadot has Polkadot.js with lots of functionality within one realm. And of course, it's extremely difficult to fucking use. Now other products, other chains like XX Network and Reef, they are substrate built. They copied for a significant portion of Polkadot, and yes, it's equally kind of difficult to use. And now we're oscillating between two strategies. Should we incorporate everything onto one Ghost Lite, or should we have separate Ghost Lites down the road? Like again, Ghost Lite, Ghost Bridge, Ghost Dex, Ghost Governance, or should we have them under one roof? And so that's going to be an issue for us to make that, those decisions. So maybe the final thing for you to show is just to help you visualize how difficult that is. One second, let me actually move to another screen here. Yeah, you're probably going to see it better here. Yeah, check this out. So this is Ghost Lite right now. It doesn't have that many things. It has health check. It has transactions, address book, nominations. Okay, ecosystem could go out, for example, fine. But, this is not kind of the best, user interface right now. It's nice, it's clean, it's understood, but it's not the best. Ecosystem page, let's assume you can move it, down to the social, but we still have 1, 2, 3, 4 fields already. You can potentially try to unite transactions and address book, so we can save space here. But what I'm saying is, there's so much enough real estate, right? So little real estate on this panel on Lite, and where can we place all those menus that I just mentioned to you? That's that's going to be definitely a technical thing. And the problem is they are connected, right? So DAO and Lite and Connect kind of have to be done in together, right? Simultaneously. But the good thing is, you will see lots of updates, lots of hopefully user-friendlier user interfaces that you can direct your traffic to, your peers to, your network to, and we can rock and roll. All right, do I have anything else to cover? I don't think so. So thank you so much. Talk to you guys next